Hello, hello, hello. This is Corey Thompson, creator of Dice Tower Dish, producer of Above Board TV, and various other things.
He doesn't want to mention Gen Con too much. Okay, and this is the Podfather of Gaming, Stephen Bonagor. You are listening to Board Games Insider episode 358, and we're recording it a bit late on March 2nd, 2025, but for good reason. Board Games Insider, powered by Board Game Geek. Corey, I feels like I just saw you yesterday, which I did. Or the day before, whatever.
Technically, I think it was 2 days ago.
2 days ago, I just saw you at the GAMA
Yeah.
Expo, which we not only had a good time, but we are bringing back news, we're bringing back information, we're bringing back gifts. I got my gifts here, which I'll show during my segment. But in general, Corey, we have a lot of news here, by the way. We may not get to any questions today. So if you only stand for the questions, you might not want. We have breaking kind of news. But Corey, before we get to that, what is going on in the huge world of Corey
Huge.
Thompson?
It's not that huge.
All right.
So, like you said, just got back from Gamma 2 days ago, and I had skipped a year at Gamma. I wanted to see how things worked at the new venue, which is Louisville, Kentucky, at the Kentucky Convention Center. And it was amazing. I have to say, it was a really, really nice venue. The city of Louisville is very nice. The food was great. And it was one of our news stories, the biggest Gamma Expo ever. It was wonderful seeing everybody. So for me, old Gamma Expos took place in Reno at a one of the hotels in Reno at the Peppermill, and it felt like a small group at a hotel. And this being in a convention center with this many people, this felt like a convention. And it was incredible. So many friends I saw, so many playtests, and so much news and business, and just had an absolutely fantastic time. But no rest for the wicked. Getting ready to head to Dice Tower West. I'm driving there in 3 days. 2 days. Yeah, driving there in 2 days.
I fly tomorrow. Go ahead.
Heading to Vegas. And
Very
then after Dice Tower West, gonna have some friends over the house and gonna spend about a week doing more board game stuff. So it goes on and on and on. And by the way, so many thanks to everybody at Gamma with just the outpouring of congratulations and love and support for the Gen Con news, which was that was odd. I didn't expect a press release. I didn't expect the amount of talk in the industry, but everything was amazingly supportive, and it was really nice. I really appreciated it.
Yeah. I guess maybe I should go directly into my Gamma experience as well, because we don't have any of that good One Ring information yet. We're about to start the role playing game, but certain people haven't finished their characters yet, so we won't talk about that and like character role play shame them or something like that. Anyway, so
I had a couple things going on.
oh yeah, you did. So yeah, so at the Gamma Expo, a bunch of things happened. First of all, we did some investigative journalism, I guess you could say, and we're going to talk about that during the news portion. Um, Corey and I spent some time at the Play to Z booth. It was like old homecoming to be like, kind of in a booth during the booth hours. I did
I
not
know.
spend all the time. And Corey's probably never.
I did the booth takedown.
Did you help Zev actually break the booth down?
I
Which
did. I
that,
broke down the booth.
that
This
took
is
at least
Yeah,
15 minutes.
it took forever.
It was one freaking banner and packing up at the games. There's no there's no instance on the world that would have taken more than 15 minutes, and I could have done it in less. But anyway,
I was
um,
working
thank
hard.
thank you for helping out Zev. By then, I was trying to figure out where I was going to eat dinner, which guess what? It was with Zev, but it was really a well organized event. Congrats to Gamma for making it such a good event, and it was
Yeah.
just well executed too, and the largest one ever. Great time with friends from the industry. Again, like on that old homecoming feel. I had not been to a GAMA since 2019. 2020, I was scheduled to go. And of course, something happened in the world. GAMA was like the first event that was half canceled due to COVID. Half the people didn't show up because COVID had just broken on the scene like within
That
a couple of weeks.
original Gamma, that is my memory of how COVID started.
Yeah, that is. I
A
mean,
Gamma Expo starting with 1,000 people and ending with 200.
yeah, it was that was
People's flights being canceled, people leaving all the time, the booths being left empty. It was insane.
people being stuck in the United States that had to get back to Europe. My good friend Lisbeth Boss, who you know, of course, she couldn't get back to the Netherlands. That's where she lived. Couldn't get back. Days trying to use the consulate, the Dutch consulate. They couldn't get. Crazy times. The other thing I'll just mention, I got gifts at at GAMA from people. Just some of them were just things that like they had people had extra stuff that were given away to retailers, so they just walked around and gave it out, like Serious Dice, which is now Justin Zirin's new company. Gave like we're giving out like bits of really cool dice packs and things like that just for free because they had extras. Who doesn't want like a cool extra sleeve of dice, which I'm showing here on camera for those who watch. Uh, for whatever reason, the guys over at Diced, right, Corey? I believe that's who gave us the Finnish rye whiskey. Finnish as in
Yep.
Finland rye
Yep.
whiskey. Lovely guys. This obviously, as you can see, I have not broken into this little tiny bottle of rye whiskey, but can't wait to taste Finland's rye whiskey. Over at Foam Brain Games, Andrew Zorowitz is the owner there, and they can do
He's
all
so
kinds of
good.
things. He's
So
such a
good.
great guy, and he can do all kinds of things for you gamers, for conventions. They make metal dice. They make included dice. It's going to be very hard to see, but there's a little bit of like a
No, that
dog
shows up good.
inside this clear die, um, and all kinds of other things he's made for me for some event that I run as well. So he gave me a little gift as he saw me walking by his booth. Two more things I got to mention. This gentleman came up to me and he goes, "I want to give you this game bag." Now it's about the size of the ones they give away for free at conventions, but this was a real heavy, like denim weight kind of
Wow.
bag. And he goes, I want to give you one. And I'm like, oh, you don't have to give me one. You should give him. He goes, well, a mention on the podcast. And sure, I mean, they are called shelfie totes. I'm showing a little flyer right now. I don't have the bag is upstairs. It's still by my luggage. But they sell them so that you can put your games in this thing, and then you can put them directly into a calyx, and they'll keep the structure and have a cool little thing on the outside. So you can go into game night, you can pull it out, and then you can go to game night with it. I loved it. I thought it was an amazing idea. And for those who want to get one, especially retailers who want to maybe stock these, it's copperfroggames.com. Copperfrog Games, and so you can go there and check it out and buy the one-offs, or retailers can go to wholesale.copperfroggames.com. And then the final thing, this was amazing. So Asgar
Yeah.
Harding Granerud from Sweden, right? He's from Sweden. All of a sudden, I'm
He's
from
from
Norway. Denmark.
Den
I
Copenhagen.
apologize, Asgar. I forgot for the moment. He gave me the unreleased expansion for Flamme Rouge. It's called Grand Tour. This has been rumored for years. Years. Back when I was still running Stronghold, we were talking about producing this, and it's been taking a while for Lautapellet in Finland to bring it out. But he gave me an advanced copy. This is an actual copy, not prototype. I'm so excited because everyone always hears me talking about Flamme Rouge is the greatest
That's
racing
very
game
cool.
out there. And, he also designed Heat, which is a bigger game with a more approachable theme for Americans, especially. But this, sorry, is a better game than Heat. Flamme Rouge from Asgard. Anyway, I think we'll. I'm gonna have one quick shout out. I'm sorry for going so long here. So last week we got a question about how do we um, try to minimize our carbon footprint because Corey and I fly a lot. And a guy on that is a friend of the show. His username is at Terrier Halo. He watches the YouTube channel, constantly posts comments there. He said that he owns some bit of a forest, and he said that he would dedicate a bit of that as our climate compensation. You, Corey, and me. And I thought that was really, really nice. And he literally said, don't pay airlines to go plant your trees. I got the trees for you. I thought that was really cool. I mean, it's really hard to do these things, sort of on your own. I mean, you need to travel, you need to do these things. But he's got that, and he says, those are dedicated to you guys. Kind of cool. And with that,
Very cool.
Corey, we go to the event deck. So this is the journalism that we did at the GAMA trade show. This is a particularly big story that was not known by many because in the Diamond bankruptcy, there are hundreds of documents from all the parties that have been mentioned.
Right.
And one of the parties, out of kind of the blue, that's mentioned in one piece, in a couple of documents, but in one particular way, is Renegade Games. Now, Renegade Games,
Right.
On the surface, has no direct contact with Alliance, other than, of course, you would think that they would distribute through them, and they do, like every other publisher, because Alliance was the biggest of the big five distributors in the United States. And by the way, Alliance Game Distribution is owned by Diamond Comics. Let's bring out that structure. So what happened here is that we had view into all the documents because these things are actually available. And
yeah, they're public.
And one of the things we found was that Renegade Games is a guarantor on a loan for Diamond Comics or Alliance. I don't remember if we'd have to go back and take a quick look there.
It's
but
Diamond.
They guaranteed a loan for the operating capital of Diamond Comics to the tune of $40 million. Not an insignificant amount of money to guarantee a loan from one entity, to another entity. So I went to Scott Gator, very good friend, been a friend of mine in the industry, the president of Renegade Games. And I said, Scott, I have to ask you this. I mean, you're named as a guarantor of the loan to JP Morgan for this loan that Diamond Comics took out. And Scott was very forthcoming. He said, Steve Geppi is an owner at Renegade Games. Not the owner, but he is an owner. He owns a portion, at least, of Renegade Games. And that's what prompted this all to happen. Do you want to break in here? I'm just talking.
Sure. This answers a lot of little hints that have been around for a while. You talked a little bit about Alliance and distribution. So Alliance runs GTM magazine, which is one of the big what is coming out for retailers magazines in the trade. It's probably the biggest trade magazine.
It is.
It's been known for years now that the biggest advertiser in GTM, which by the way is owned by Scott Geppi.
Steve Geppi.
My apologies for Steve Geppi. It's been known for years that the biggest advertiser in GTM is Renegade Games. It makes perfect sense if Steve Geppi actually owns a portion of Renegade Games.
Right. Yeah. So this kind of brings some boxes together. It was surprising beyond surprise for me and Corey and other people who looked at some of the bankruptcy documents to see this, that Renegade is a guarantor on this $40 million plus loan. It's actually a little bit more than that, I believe. And then finding out that Steve Geppi is a part owner there, right? So those are the principal. Like Steve Cheppy owns Diamond Comics and all of the subsidiaries and pieces of that, including a company called Rosebud, including Alliance Game Distribution. So all of that owned at least in part by Jeppy Family. Jeppy Family Enterprises is one of the entities as well. And in continuing the discussion with Scott Gata of Renegade Games, president, he mentioned that there's no issue. He's not going to have a problem. There's a asset sale that is happening on March 19th. This is absolutely public knowledge. It's even been reported in ICV2 and places that there will be a sale, virtual, like within 99% guaranteed, the sale of Alliance Game Distribution as a piece of this bankruptcy mess. It's going to be sold to someone, with most likely it going to Universal Distribution.
Was there some sort of weird term about that? Like there's some term about the pre-sale?
You want me to say stalking horse bid, right?
I do.
Yes, stalking. And that it's also interesting that that stalking horse bid was actually made before the bankruptcy filings, I found out. So that bid came in, everything went into bankruptcy. That was immediately mentioned, in the bankruptcy filings, in all the reports. So Universal Distribution, Canadian distributor, the biggest there, them and Lion Rampant sort of own, and well, there's Asmodee Canada as well. They only sell Asmodee games mostly.
Right.
So those are the big ones in Canada. So Universal is saying, okay, hold on, we'll take this. We'll offer $39 million. If that comes through, $39 million here, $40 million loan, and that loan had started to be paid down, of course. So we see that this is Scott saying, not going to be an issue. That sale is going to happen, and we get all of that. That we get the cash. The cash gets paid back, and the guarantee is off.
The only complicating factor is there's an enormous list of creditors. There's an enormous list of people who have given loans to Diamond, and with Diamond going bankrupt, they want to get their money back.
They have given product to Diamond and haven't got paid back by Diamond, like the people such as Penguin Random House.
Yeah,
right?
They're the biggest.
That's a huge one. I think it's $11-12 million. There's a huge number there.
The interesting one in there is Pokemon. Pokemon is owed about $9 million, and Pokemon has started legal action to essentially cut in line to get their payment.
That is correct.
Before the entire bankruptcy gets settled out.
In most instances, again, I'm not your lawyer, and if I was I'm not a lawyer, and if I was a lawyer, I'm not your lawyer. But my take on that, from my knowledge, is that the loan, the actual physical loaners of money, are going to be in line before someone who sent you product and then you gave them net 30 or net 60, net 90 to get that money back, to get paid that money. So there's a seniority in crediting creditors in a company. The early debt, it's usually called senior secured debt. That means you're first in line. This is this JP Morgan Chase loan that Renegade backed for Diamond Comics would be probably second to that. Now, not all companies have senior secured debt. That would be like issuing a bond or something like that. Or maybe it was written in that somebody loaned them money a long time ago and they haven't been fully paid back, so they might be in front. But for the most part, loans and debt instruments are going to be before things like, listen, you owe me money for I fixed your plumbing yesterday. I mean, right? I mean, things like that are credit, right? Whatever the case may be. Like, I paid you, I went online and I paid you money, but I haven't received my product yet. You got to stand in line, sir. So that's a very tangled web, but we wanted to bring it out.
Just a really quick summary. So Diamond Comics has gone bankrupt. Diamond Comics owns Alliance Distribution, one of the big ones in board games, which is why we as board gamers are interested. Diamond Comics and Alliance are owned by Steve Jeppy and Steve Jeppy's companies. And what's just come out is that Renegade Games was named as a guarantee on a large loan to Diamond.
Correct.
So the question is, what's going to happen to Renegade? And the answer is very, very, very likely nothing will happen to Renegade because everything seems to be covered by this sale.
That's exactly a great summary of it. So thank you for doing that. If you listen to one sentence or two sentences, listen to Corey right there. So we're going to now go into like, the wait and see period where we look at, so the 19th, I think it's the 19th, is 2 weeks from the time this drops. Then we'll be looking at that and we'll look at we'll see the review of the sales and if all of the things happen and we'll report back on this. But in order of importance, Scott Gata is not worried, president of Renegade Games. My talking with him and my take by listening to all this is I'm not worried for him. Thank God Scott's a good friend, and Renegade is crushing it with things. They had their best year ever, by the way, he told me. So he had mentioned we had a long conversation and he mentioned how amazing Renegade is doing, and it certainly is by all view.
Yeah.
So things are moving forward and I'm really,
Now,
really excited.
what I don't want to downplay, and we're certainly not an expert on this, all of this news is devastating to the comic book industry. That is going to be an enormous upheaval. Diamond Comics nearly had a monopoly on the comic book industry, and now with them gone, it's going to be Wild West for a little while.
It is. And this is a very interesting point. So after Scott and I talked about impact on Renegade and the fact that, which I didn't know, that Steve Jeppy owned a part of Renegade. After that, Scott is actually an expert in the comics industry. Why?
Exactly.
One reason is that Scott owned a comic book store way, 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 way in the past. So he understands the industry at the retailer level, then, of course, the distribution level. Diamond Comics had a virtual monopoly for the longest time on all the major titles. They had Marvel, they had DC, I'm pretty sure they had Dark Horse, they had all of these independents as well. So it was either them or no one to get all this stuff. And about a year or so ago, right, things started imploding there. And maybe it had to do with rumblings of this. It had to do, we actually talked about it. It had to do a lot with COVID and the way they shut down and maybe other things as well. Maybe it was cash flow and stuff like that. Marvel pulled out and said, you no longer can distribute our comics. Diamonds pulled out. You no longer can distribute our comics. And there was a house of cards there in the comic industry, and that was bad. So Scott's saying that your basic mom and pop shop sitting there selling comics was going to one location again and again to get all of their stuff and restock in this. And now they have to research where to get stuff. You know what? They need this title. They want this title from some unknown indie comic thing. Like, where do I get it? Do I get it? Can I even get it anymore? Maybe I have to go directly to the publisher and will they start sending me and what those terms are going to
Yeah,
be, which is so much harder. It's going to be a massive upheaval in the comic book industry, much, much less so in our hobby game industry.
exactly.
Wow. So that was good. I love the coverage. Investigative reporters Stephen Bonacore and Corey Thompson for Board Games Insider, powered by Board Game Geek. I love it. So Corey, let's get on to the next thing. We talked about how great GAMA was, and you hinted at the fact that GAMA Expo, by the way, this is called the GAMA Expo, used to be called the GAMA Trade Show, and it's only for professionals within the industry. It's a B2B networking event from game designers all the way to the rest of the industry, publishers, distributors, right?
Right, right.
All of the media, content creators, all of us. So the GAMA Expo just ended, and Corey and I were there, and they had a huge year, way up on their
Yeah,
attendance. Corey, tell us about it.
they're so they are up more than 25% off of the previous year. So attendance for 2025 was 3,425, and last year's attendance was 2,736. Same venue, I think people maybe like me were waiting out Louisville to see how it was, and reviews have been fantastic. People love the show in Louisville. So we've got this enormous uptick. Number of exhibit booths also increased from 300 to 350. So they're doing great. And congratulations to GAMA. It's a great show. So we had another record-breaking year.
Yeah, and that really is wonderful, again for the industry that so let's break it down. All the distributors are there, right? They kind of just they have to go.
Sure.
They're going to be talking directly to their clients, the retailers. So many of the publishers were there. Anybody of any note was there. In fact, people of no note were there too. I mean, just like it was a I don't want to, I don't know how I can compare the exhibit hall to other exhibit halls. It was not obviously as big as Essen or Gen Con or even Origins, but it was big. I mean, it was 15 aisles, something like that. And,
Yeah.
and each aisle was as long as the entire hall. So it took a while. If you really were going to go through every booth, it's going to take you a while. And so that was great.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, is the retailers were up by over 10%, about 12%, if I can do that math really quickly in my head. So that's just
17.
17%. I'm very bad at math in my head. You did it for the retailers, I assume, right? The 890 and 1092. But anyway,
Oh, yeah.
the whole show was up 26%. So that's just amazing. So, oh yeah, yeah. No, it was 17% for the exhibit booth. Come on, Corey. Don't make me look like an idiot, please. I make myself look like an idiot enough. But that made everybody feel really good that they're getting good business out of this show.
Yep.
Then on the other side of the coin, in the tangential, in part of the hobby game industry, but not part of like our core board games portion, WotC and Magic sales were down in Q4 and for full year 2024, but they are projecting growth in 2025. Corey, did you note any interesting pieces of this?
I mean, once again, it's being held by Wizards of the Coast. Magic and D&D are really driving Hasbro sales. When they say it's down, for me, it's down 3%, so it's mostly flat. Um, so the Lord of the Rings products are really working well. Um, the sales at Wizards of the Coast and digital gaming were down 7%. So it's it's a mixed bag. It looks like they're flat to me mostly, and looking to have a good year next year.
Yeah, and they're forecasting growth, including a 5 to 7% growth in their Wizard of the Coast and digital gaming segment, which is what we're talking about, right? So they have two weird things, right? It's Wizard of the Coast and digital, I guess, geeky stuff, and then they
Yeah,
have mass. Then they have all of Hasbro's mass
right.
market crap stuff that they also do there. So they're predicting a good year this coming year. So I think we can give them a pass on this past year. So what we got here for Atlas Games? You grabbed this one, and I have not
Yeah,
even
I had a
checked
wonderful
it out.
meeting with Atlas. And what I found really exciting, and this goes again with our discussion and questions we had about sustainability, that Atlas Games has started a line of recycled plastic products, which include dice and clips and bases for miniatures. But what's really exciting is Atlas has started a sprue collection service. So sprues, of course, are the leftover pieces on a sheet of plastic products, and you twist out all of the plastics you want, and you're left with the sprues. That's more a war game term than a board game term, I believe. But they are using these sprues to create their recycled goods. And if you look at Atlas Games, atlas-games.com/replay/sprues, you'll see details about how to send sprues to them, where they have collection sites already set up. And there's talks about setting up at various locations, even conventions. So, good job for Atlas. Atlas Games, of course, has been in the industry for a very, very long time. One of the first, and their big thing that put them on the map was the clear card game Gloom, which they're still supporting and still making new products for. So,
I I
more about
lit-
sustainability.
I yeah, first of all, yes, this is an amazing little thing to do to collect those things, and I think they're saying you can drop them off at Gen Con, right? Is that one of the places you're going to be able to like?
It's not official, no.
Okay, okay,
Uh, we would, it would be fantastic if something like that were set up, but I do not know of anything like that set up right now.
right. So I think it's a great idea. Look, every little bit helps. So, why not? If you're going to be throwing this plastic and it's not the kind of plastic that can be recycled locally, because not every type of plastic can be recycled locally, send it to Atlas and they will recycle it appropriately. Gloom, just as a little thing, and Atlas Games and Gloom, it was one of the first games that really got me into the hobby. Not the first, certainly, but it was one of those early games that I said, this is just so cool. The theme is cool. The components were cool. The theme is that you're trying to kill off all of your family in the most and make them as miserable as possible during their lives and then have them die. But it's tongue in cheek, really amazing art and clear cards that you stacked on top of each other so that the stuff like on the bottom would come through and you would get all of the tags, all the tags on the cards to help your people become more miserable, or you give something to somebody else that makes their family
Yeah,
members happier, and that's bad. You want them
yeah.
to be miserable.
Atlas around since 1990,
Yeah.
and really dating myself, I remember Dungeoneer from Atlas Games,
Wow.
card-driven role playing.
Right. Wow. All right, Corey. The next game is it's a new game, and we don't normally talk about new games, but it's also from a company that has
Yeah, this
some
is
history.
really interesting. So, um, Sophie Gravel is kind of a fixture within our industry, has founded lots of games over the years. Most famously, Sophie had Philosophia, which was then which bought Z-Man Games way back when and turned into F2Z. This combined powerhouse, which also included Pretzel Games, was then and Plaid Hat was then purchased by Asmodee. And then Sophie left Asmodee and formed a new company called Plan B Games, which did very well. Plan B was then repurchased by Asmodee, and people have been kind of sitting, waiting, and seeing what will Sophie Gravel do next. And the new company, game announced by Final Score Games, is the game Ink by Kaspar Lapp. Uh, Ink really neat kind of watercolor cover, and the details about Ink are just being released now. Literally came out in the past couple days. Um, Casper Lapp, of course, the designer of Magic Maze and many others. And then our next story is just a real quickie that I think is nice for old school gamers and a little bit of history buffs. Do you remember the How to Host a Murder board games that were really popular in I'm going to say the 90s?
I not only remember them, I played many of them, and in fact,
Yep.
still in my collection, sitting there at the bottom. And I actually promised to give them all away to somebody who really does these, and he runs them at conventions. These and some of the new ones, like Pegasus Spiele has new ones. But I love the How to Host a Murders. Are you saying that they're coming back again?
They are coming back again. So the
Awesome.
company Decipher made How to Host a Murder, and they have partnered with Cryptozoic to bring back and relaunch the How to Host a Murder party. These were dinner parties where you dressed up, took on roles. There were background. You assigned the roles out. Someone was murdered, and you would question, figure out the murder. They were really cool. There was even a Star Trek themed How to Host a Murder, which I went to that one dressed as a Klingon.
I was Commander Data. in that one. Well, this is really good news for me because I'm a big role player and I love these games. I wonder, does it mention if they're going to do them like as like direct reboots? Like it'll be exactly, it looks like they're going to be exactly the same game. They're not going to put little cassette tapes in the box this time, of course. They're probably not going to put any audio
Nope, it'll
media.
probably be digital.
It'll be right. Yeah, they'll just host it on a site and
Yeah.
you'll just be able to click and that's
So
perfect.
interesting stuff. First published in 1985. This is from ICV2. And it had a series of games all the way through 2003. So the press release says the first wave of episodes available via the reboot for this game will be the Waters Down Affair, which was the first one that I played,
I played that.
Class of 54,
I played that.
the Chicago Caper,
I think I played that. I own it.
and Saturday Night Cleaver,
uh,
which
maybe
I
I
don't
played.
remember.
Yeah.
Cryptozoic also plans to make episodes of the game that feature major licensed IPs.
Like maybe
Ooh.
if they get the Star Trek license.
Maybe. This
That's
this definitely leaves it open that there might be new ones, which would
right.
be amazing.
Yeah. So, Corey, our last one for the week, and as you can see, everybody, we've gone long, so we're probably going to have to skip strategy and tactics, but there was so much interesting news, and we had the big news story. So, Corey, what's this last crazy one here? This one's crazy. This one is a little kind of
I
crazy.
again for my CV2, I could not ignore this. Wizards of the Coast and WizKids reveal Dungeons and Dragons Mr. Potato Head.
Crossover
Yeah,
miniature.
let that sink in. And the image is absolutely gorgeous. It is a beholder, Mr. Potato Head.
It-
I love it. I mean, just chef's kiss, just moi.
yeah,
This is perfect.
it made its debut at the GAMA Expo, and people were crazy picking them up. I believe they were giving them away like to the first X number of retailers. I think they were. They were right across from Play to Z, WizKids, and there was a line
Yep,
there trying to get their Mr. Potato Head Beholder. Mr. Potato Head Beholder. That was beautiful. I mean, right? I
it
agree.
is
That is
so
a
nice.
that is a chef's kiss kind of thing. Mwah. Beautiful, beautiful.
The miniature is 3 inches tall and comes with 8 interchangeable eye stalks.
Oh my
Will be
God.
available in the summer fall for 24.99.
That's amazing. So Corey, I think as we said, we do need to skip strategy and tactics because we have gone
Sure.
so long here, which is great because there's a big news show that happens occasionally. So let's move on to play testing. Corey, as usual, you are the man. You gave us last week's question. What was last week's question, Corey? And then we'll talk about the great answers.
So I asked last week, what do you think is the lightest game that you own that you would happily play? So I
We
did not mean to imply in the least little bit that there was anything wrong with light games. I
no,
just didn't want people's picking something ridiculously not even a game. I mean, this is a game you're excited about playing, but it's the lightest one
yeah.
you own.
I'm going to go through a bunch of them in rapid succession. Then we'll go a little deeper on some because some people gave a lot of extra answers.
Oh, sure.
Kevin Martin, he says Doodle Dash is a great, quick
That one was
drawing game.
really cool. I
Don't
forgot about that.
don't know that one. Definitely Diced Cheese or Love Letter. That was by Risa K. Greg Senko, big friend of the show. He's always commenting. He says Kabanga. Probably got that from me, Greg. I probably
Yeah,
taught it to
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Adam C.
Jonathan,
Go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
had Jonathan Sarkey at J Sarkey. I have to say, this is absolutely my mindset. This is exactly what I would have said. It's probably a tie between Super Mega Lucky Box, Phil Walker Harding, amazing, or Flip 7. Flip 7 has been all over this list. Everybody is mentioning Flip 7. It's new, it's hot, it is super light, but yeah, always worth putting on the table.
One of the best marketing campaigns I've ever seen was Flip Seven, just like giving them out to like so many influencers. They gave them out all over, and people played and started talking about it, and now it's going to be a big evergreen for them going forward. So that's a great game. Mr. Juggles, we took some answers from him, some questions from him last week. I love that saying Mr. Juggles from the UK here. He has two answers. My first choice would be Haba Games called Sleepy Castle. It's a children's memory
Yeah,
game, but as mine is poor, it's almost, but not quite, a level playing field when I play with the foster children. This really proves the design idea that you can take a simple game and just add one more mechanic to elevate it. As for light play, I'd happily play and think I'd be a game like Cacao or Ticket to Ride. Well, I think
cacao.
Ticket to Ride is well, it's a light game.
Yeah, and cacao also is a little heavier than I would have expected, but both great games.
Both absolutely great
I
games.
like a lot of call outs for the game Strike. If you don't know,
Strike,
Strike is literally a model of a Coliseum with dice in it, and you throw dice into it trying to knock other dice out.
absolutely, it's absolutely great. My our good friends over at Rolling Dice and Taking Names, Tony and the other guy. We have this ongoing joke that I always forget his name, Tony. So we just call him, I just call him Tony and Marty. Always throw a strike tournament at Gen Con, but they do it as a big party in the old spaghetti factory. And it's dinner and a strike tournament, and it's amazing. So kudos to them and congratulations on them for being such a long running great podcast. We've had so many. I'll just make a quick more. This is one of those ones we can mention a lot of games here. Sanders Zwipenpol from Belgium says, My Shelfie the Dice Game, XOK, Trio, and Pixies. I don't know any of those games. Do you, Corey?
Oh, you've played Trio with me.
Oh, yes, I've played Trio. That is correct. You are correct, sir. Just came out of nowhere, I guess. I didn't remember it. No Thanks also got a lot of love with, as well as
Oh,
Zorro.
such a good game. Are you trying to say Tsuro?
Tsuro. What did I say? Tsuro? I said Tsuro. I thought I did.
It's,
All right, man.
it's
So
just
go ahead. I'm sorry.
just so many great games
Yeah.
being mentioned here.
Yeah.
It's this really was a nostalgic tour of
Very,
all the
very cool.
wonderful light games that are out there.
Corey, again, you have asked us the question for this coming week. What is the question that you would pose to all of our listeners?
Conventions are fresh in my mind. So my question is, when you go to a game playing convention, so this is something like BGG Con or Dice Tower Con, where the majority of your time at the convention is game playing. What are your normal waking hours? When are you there awake? Bonus question, do you set yourself an alarm for the morning?
It's a great
I can
question.
tell you, I have such FOMO. I always worry that I'm missing out. Yes, I set an alarm. And I'm normally there from about 7 or 8 in the morning until I try to be to bed earlier, but I'm going to say it's till 1 or 2.
Oh wow, that's pretty late. That's too late for me. My I'm a creature of habit slash I kind of like to keep similar hours in most of the time. So I set an alarm 7 a.m. I get my alarm goes off at 7 a.m. every day of my life because I used to wake up at one point in my life at 4:30. My alarm used to go off, and I would snooze it until 5 and finally got out of bed. So now I allow myself to stay in bed until 7, regardless of where I am. And I will be, I'll usually say goodbye to everybody by 11 p.m. I'm an earlier bird, decompress a bit before bed. But yeah, sometimes I'll go later sometimes, but that's my hours at a convention. And
He turns into a pumpkin.
they don't, they don't vary greatly even here when I'm home, which is interesting. This is a great question. I can't wait to hear what people are going to say about this. I guess those people who do go to conventions, so it'll be a slightly less number of people answering than the last question. But what do you guys think? I have already created, and answers are already coming in for this question to you. So please go over to the guild and
Wow.
find the playtesting thread with number 358 and answer the question that we've just posted to you, and we'll get back to you next week. In the meantime,
Oh And they did. They've been answering it while we were recording. I'm
Isn't that
kind of blown away.
isn't that great? Well, people are on at all kinds of hours. I just all right. Well, I mean, literally, like I posted it like 15 minutes before the show just to put it on there.
I
And
love it.
yeah, everybody, let's get over to the final scoring. Thank you all so much for listening and help us spread the word about this podcast by telling your friends to download Board Games Insider wherever they like to get their podcasts or watch Board Games Insider on the Podfather of Gaming YouTube channel. And if you want to be part of this podcast, please, we would love for you to be. Go to the guild on Board Game Geek. I know you can find it. Become a member if you're not already. Then ask us questions for strategy and tactics and answer our question to you from the playtesting segment. It's easy. Please do it. We'll love to talk to you like that. And interact with us also on social media. The same handle on all the platforms like Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and YouTube. It's at Board Games Insider, at Portal Games US, at Podfather Gaming, at Dice Tower Dish, at Play to Z Games, at Above Board TV, and at Nerd About Show. Follow us on whichever one you like and talk to us because you're talking directly to us on those channels. Special call out, of course, to the YouTube channels, which we do the most work on, and that's Portal Game Studio, The Podfather of Gaming, and Above Board TV. We'll love to see you at a convention. This is going to drop as we're at Dice Tower West, so hopefully we'll see a lot of people there. Come up, talk, and maybe we can even play a game. And we can certainly, we're in Vegas, baby. Vegas. Let's go get a drink, hang out, get a good meal, and all that kind of fun stuff we would love to. Board Games Insider is professionally edited by a guy named Jake Thompson, who's very cool and kind of the son of Corey. Thank
I've
you,
known him.
Jake.
It's a
You
good
know him?
guy.
You've known him
Yeah.
for like 30 something years, right?
Yeah.
Also, that great voice you hear doing the intro, the outro, the in-between segments, that of Ray Greenlee. He can be contacted to do your voiceover work at raygreenleevoiceover.com. Corey, that brings us to the end of another great episode. What would you like to tell? What would you like to tell the
I
people?
just, all right, a brief,
Oh,
serious moment.
uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh.
I have to say, a little bit of disappointment in our industry. I was trapped in a restaurant at Expo with a plate of nachos that was much, much too big for me to eat. And I called out for help. I called out to the gamers who I'm pretty sure are good at eating nachos. And no one came and saved me. I was stuck with
Eating.
enough nachos for 10 people. And they were brisket nachos. They were really good.
They were heavy,
Uh,
heavy nachos.
yes, it was a true tactical nacho error. It was bad.
Corey,
So
I did not see the call
I
out. You posted it in social. I didn't see it until the next day. If you would have called me, Corey, if you would have called me, I would have
you would have
ran to that restaurant and chowed down nachos with you until
no,
we
it's
beat
okay.
the
It's
nachos.
okay. I'll survive. It's okay. It's I got through. I got through.
Corey,
But it was just a sad moment.
when your name comes up on my phone, Corey, I answer the phone. There are only a few people in my life that when their name comes up, I would answer that phone. You, my mother, maybe even Paula, maybe Paula.
Maybe Paula.
She's in the other room. She just went like, huh? She looked at me. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. We will see you next week on Board Games Insider.
See you, everybody.